My name is Aaron LeBrun, and I'm the project manager at ServPro of Palm Desert. I've been there for about 6 years. This is Dave Garcia, he's general manager, and also Megan over there. She works in the office. Dave has been at ServPro for 16 years, so between the two of us, we got around 22 years of experience.
That's pretty good.
That's not too bad for guys our age. So we just had the opportunity to be able to present information in regards to water damage and mold. There's a lot of misconceptions about those things, especially in our environment down here in the desert, being as dry as it is, and ways that you can, first of all, avoid it, or in the event that you do have it, how you can take steps to minimize damage and to get help to minimize that damage in regards to water damage and mold. A couple things I'm going to give you ladies right now, because these will you take with you, and we do have some stuff for you. That's just a newsletter that ServPro puts out. It's got some tips, and then this is also good because this little flyer right here does have some more applicable do's and don'ts for fire and smoke damage, but also for water damage. With modern plumbing, water damages happen, and for some reason in this valley they happen often. But they can happen from any plumbing source. We have them most commonly from toilet supply lines. A lot of toilet supply lines have metal at the valve. It's a steel braided line, but at the tank it's plastic, and that's the piece that breaks. And because it's a compression fitting, it splits horizontally and then cracks and sprays water all over the place. And that will fill a house very quickly. But you name it, under sink hoses, clothes washer lines. If you have the black rubber hose going in clothes washer line, that's very common after certain undetermined amount of time, it'll start to bubble out. Usually steel braided lines will help alleviate that problem. But refrigerator ice maker lines, and a lot of plumbing that is being put into homes now is the plastic, blue and red plastic for the hot water and cold water. Copper is becoming less and less common due to cost and things like that. So we may be seeing more and more water damage issues because of the type of plumbing that's being placed in homes. The very first thing, I know that's not a great thing to hear, if you're going to buy a new house, wondering I just bought a house last summer, and I know that type of plumbing is in my house, and being the business that I'm in, I'm always very conscious of checking my bathrooms and under my sinks and all that stuff to make sure that I don't have a leak or a problem. And that's one thing, once you're conscious of the issues, it's having a larger house or smaller, if you can do a little bit of maintenance to check things either weekly or twice a month underneath sinks is a very common one, because how many times do we look under our bathroom sink, and if you have a small drip, it can lead to not only damage to the cabinet, but it can also lead to mold and things like that. And we'll touch more on how that mold can come about from water damage. But a good deterrent, a very good deterrent, probably the most important that a lot of people don't think about, is shutting water off to the house when you're not there. In this valley, we have a lot of winter residents. That makes up for a huge, a huge percentage in this valley. And a lot of the places, not the case. But when all of our winter residents leave, some of them have people to come and watch the house. But what is that? Once a week, maybe. So if you leave your home, I do this even if I leave for a night. I will shut the water off to my house. You never know when something like that's going to happen. Most homes, at least newer homes, probably within the last 10, 15 years, the home plumbing, the structural plumbing, is separate from the landscaping. So I'm not talking about shutting it off at the street. They're usually near the hose faucet out in front, near the garage, or near the front of the walkway. There's a valve on there, and it'll either be a round handle valve, that's a gate valve, or it will be a ball valve, which is just a quarter turn, like 90 degrees. Turning that off will take the pressure off your pipes. Now turning it back on, when you come back on, just ease it back on. You don't want to turn it back on, but a lot of times it's safe to turn your valves off and on, unless you have an older home where the valves are becoming more sticky. You probably want to have a plumber look at those. But that is a main deterrent to water damage, is turning off the water.
Did you say that it turns off your sprinklers as well?
Some homes do. I would check that out.
I think
Maybe.
mine does. So I would have to leave it on because of that.
Yeah. We've had customers where, and feel free, both of you, to ask questions at any time. But we've had customers after they've had the water damage to get that fixed because they want to be able to turn the water off. When you're looking at a water loss, potentially it could vary greatly, but a water loss just for the damage portion could be in the $10,000, $15,000 just to get the house dry, not including what it would cost to repaint and to get the house all back to the way it was. A plumbing fix of having that isolated, it seems minor compared to the damage it can cause. Yes?
I was just going to ask you on those parts, like under the toilets and the sinks and all that are plastic, do you recommend every so often actually changing those so that they're, or just wait until you see some kind of...
My recommendation, what I did in my house is replaced it. Because well, you'll find at Home Depot or Lowe's, they'll have, like I said, they'll have a steel braided line, but you want steel fittings on both sides. Because you'll have steel on one side, steel braided, and then the 1-inch plastic. It doesn't help anything to have that 1-inch plastic because what we see, is what breaks.
And we have a fairly new house, and we saw that's what they put in there, is all plastic.
It's a little bit of a cost, but again, it's in a way almost an investment. Because those you won't have a problem with. They're not going to rust. Once they've been installed, you're not going to have a problem with that hose or that fitting. I've never seen a defect with a steel braided line with steel ends. But 9 times, almost 10 out of 10 with that plastic fitting, if it's broke, it's at that fitting. So they don't have the complete assembly. Maybe look through your phone book if you dealt with a plumber. Call and ask if they'll do a free estimate to give you an idea of what it would cost to replace those things. I'm not endorsing any plumbers or anything like that. It's just those are the factors that lend to great loss sometimes. A lot of times when people are at home, they can have a water damage, but it'll be much less damage because they walk into the bathroom and find water, or those types of things. The clothes or the laundry sink. We just had one last week. The laundry sink overflowed for the second time. This person had that damage happen. So it's little things that can be either the bathtub run over, that if you're home you can catch it, but it still can limit the damage that you want to try to alleviate. Most of the damages we see is because people aren't home. And that, if it's not found by a landscaper or your HOA, the security, it can run and run and run until it floods the whole house. And if you have a common wall unit, it's going to go to their unit. So you may even, if you're a apartment condo association, you can be affected by a neighbor, So it's hard to say, sometimes you can't always control, but a good deterrent is to turn the water off to your house. Because, a lot of times, and again, being out of town, in this valley too, we get a lot